We're live? Yay, we're live, we're live. Hey, and welcome. How are you? I'm Father Roderick. Welcome to the channel and welcome to today's chat. You can hop in, hop out whenever you want, ask me anything. And if you're watching this later on, then I hope you feel just as welcome. I was supposed to go live yesterday in the afternoon as well, but I was elsewhere, so I couldn't make it back in time. Second time this happened this week. So I figured I'd just go live today and catch up with all of you. I missed my kitchen stream. I've only been doing this for about 3 weeks now, but in the past 2 weeks I've been doing a stream from my kitchen on Wednesdays. But as I said, I just couldn't make it. I've got a couple of things to do. This has been a bit of a strange week with lots of appointments, way more than I normally have, and that usually has the side effect of turning my entire work routine upside down. Hey Liz, hey Margot, and so everything is is different than in normal weeks, and that usually also derails my productions. So I always try to have a kind of a normal, like a regular routine that's always the same, which helps me to put the stuff out that I want to put out. But this week, none of that worked. So I've got one episode of The Break that I still need to record. I still want to do like an anime chat. But I'm thinking more and more that maybe that should be something that I do on TikTok alone, because that's where the anime audience is. Hey, Red Apple. Hey, GB. Hey, Michiel. And Jeremy is there too. So instead, maybe we can just chat. I'm just going to take off this watch. I've got a watch on my wrong wrist. And this is so weird. So I spent most of the day migrating from Android back to Apple, to iOS. I've never really walked away from iOS because I have a MacBook and an iPad. But I now have an Apple Watch, and Joost, one of our patrons, sent me his old iPhone 10, or the iPhone X. So I picked it up at around lunchtime, and then I spend the entire afternoon installing everything, and it's really tough. Like, so now it all works, but I've been on Android for 4 or 5 years for all my daily routines. All my apps are on Android, and so on an iPad I have a totally different workflow. I use the iPad mostly to do 2 things. I browse. 3 things. So I use it as a radio. So I listen to audiobooks, podcasts, live radio on the iPad all the time because it's got great speakers, and it's very easy to carry around everywhere in the house. The second thing I use it for is to read, online reading, books, comics. I love the big screen. And the third major category for which I use the iPad is for writing. So show notes, typing. I'm hopefully going to be able to get back to writing like regular blog updates. I'm thinking of starting a Substack. But I don't use it for any of the other like things like fitness tracking and calorie counting and calling and messaging. All that was Android based, and so I realize now that I have to make the switch back to iOS. That is actually a lot of work to get all those apps up and running and make sure that the accounts are linked, and then of course the Android infrastructure is different from the Apple Galaxy, so I had to make some adjustments. And then getting this phone to work with this watch was also quite a challenge. Before I could make the connection, I first had to sync everything, and then it had to update the watch, and it failed to do that. So I was babysitting both devices for more than an hour while it was downloading, because every time I would walk away, it would stop the whole installation process or the update process, and then I had to start all over again every single time. So, but now that it works, I'm glad that everything almost magically starts to work together. So even my Apple, my MacBook, just knows that I have a watch now and knows that I have an iPhone and starts communicating back and forth. It's pretty impressive. Hello, Yvonne. Is there a chance that Father Roderick looks... Oh, if I come back on TV, there's always a chance, of course, but the program has been, the TV show has been canceled more than a year ago, and I've not received an invitation to do any other work. So it's not up to me; it's up to the broadcasting company. But so far, I haven't heard from them. I'm working on some documentaries for myself. Maybe over time they may be interested in airing those. But yeah, I know that a lot of people that used to see me on TV almost every week, they do miss the contact. One of the reasons that I'm here on social media, streaming and connecting. And thankfully, of course, my ministry reaches more than just the Netherlands. So I've got a very nice community all over the world, and it's always a joy to connect with that audience, or with that community, I should say. How's the audio? Is that working fine? I made some changes to the setup here. So I moved the table. I used to have the table more to this side, and then the laptop would be right here. So every time I would look to your comments, I would be looking off screen, which felt a bit artificial. Now it's much easier. Like I have the comments just right beside the camera, and so hopefully that makes it less of a disconnect. At least for me, this feels more natural. This is just the kind of stuff that has occupied me today, and I'm also using all that tech stuff to rest a little bit. Yesterday was a very intense day, very long day, and I'm trying to balance out my activities to avoid these drops in energy that I've been suffering from over the past few weeks. And so I normally would go out for a run, and I actually am still kind of debating whether or not to do that, but it's already getting dark, it's cold, it's raining outside, so, and I'm cold and I'm tired. So dabbling with all the tech and going online and have a chat, it's also for me a way to kind of procrastinate the physical exercise, and maybe I should just not do it anyway, because I mean, that takes a huge chunk out of my energy budget every day. We got some more questions. T14 days until season 3 of Star Trek Picard. Yeah, that's cool. I'm still in the middle of season 2 of Picard, and it's very entertaining. Of course, a bit sad that the actress who played the Borg Queen died 2 days ago. I had no idea she was sick. She was suffering from the spread of cancer. It started with breast cancer, and I think it spread all over her body. And she must have already been very sick while she was playing the Borg Queen, which makes her performance even more impressive and more, I don't know, pertinent. Yeah. Audio is good. That's nice. If you had to order 66, one of these, which would you choose? Star Wars, Star Trek, or Lord of the Rings? You mean like eliminate one of these three? There's no way in the world that I can get rid of Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. So even though I love Star Trek, that is still in third place for me. So yeah, that would have to go. But thankfully, I'm not the Emperor, so it's not necessary. When am I in Deep Space Nine? I am in. I'm currently watching, I think, season 5. Yeah, it's still on Netflix over here. I haven't watched it in a while. I've been trying out some newer series as well, and I can only watch like less than an hour of TV every day, so it's very easy to lose track. Let me see if I go to Netflix on this thing. So this is my old phone. Oh, it's not even installed. Or maybe I got rid of it. I can look here on the Apple. Let's see, Netflix. Oh, I've been logged out. Why is that? Okay. Sign in. Let's do this again. See what happens. Probably two-factor authorization. No, it does it right away. Oh, something. Netflix, a new device is using your account. No, it's not a new device. It's just my regular. I've watched Netflix so often on this MacBook. Oh well. Okay, so here is Deep Space Nine. I am currently... Oh, no. I'm only in season 4? No. I am only in season 4. Sons of Mog. With Worf's brother Kurn. I've said this before, but it's another Klingon-centered episode, and I don't care for those episodes, so I got stuck. But maybe I should just continue. These are long seasons, though. I mean, it's like 25 episodes per season. I think nowadays that would be 3 years worth of episodes. If you look at Disney, for instance, and Star Wars, it's like 6 episodes, 8 episodes max. But back in the days, they would film 25 episodes per season. Can you imagine just the industry behind that to make that possible? However, I prefer fewer episodes, higher quality. So there's, especially the science fiction stuff nowadays, is much higher quality. And so budget-wise, of course, it would probably, and also time-wise with post-production, they wouldn't be able to do more than just a handful of episodes. Where was I? Okay. Yeah, I think the actress who played the Borg Queen had cancer since 2020, so for over 2 years. But of course, that can always... It's a very unpredictable trajectory. A lot of people recover from breast cancer with treatment, and unfortunately, in some cases, it comes back or it appears elsewhere in the body, and yeah. And then it can suddenly, depending on where it manifests itself, it can go very fast. I'm going through Star Trek chronologically now, having finished the original series and movies, going through the Next Generation season 2. Wow, you have a lot to watch. But with the Next Generation, it's all going to go uphill. If you already like the second season of the Next Generation, you're gonna love the rest, because the first three seasons are pretty terrible compared to the rest. So, and more recently, there's been a lot of complaining about some series, especially Discovery, but still, it's pretty darn good, and it's not always the same Star Trek that we grew up with or that we're familiar with. But I like that they're trying out different types of storytelling, and it's very entertaining. And it's not, Star Trek has never been overly pretentious, so it's entertainment. It's light sci-fi. But I like everything Star Trek. There's not a single Star Trek series that I really dislike. I mean, some of it is more my taste than others. So I like the Strange New Worlds is the best Star Trek that I've ever seen. That for me is right now is my favorite series of all Star Trek ever made. Some of the movies were kind of weak. First season of Picard, actually didn't really care for that. I thought it was not a very good story, and it all felt a bit clunky. Season 2 is a lot better, and I think season 3 is going to be it's going to be really good. Discovery is it's okay. It's a bit off and on. I do like the cast, the crew. It's its own thing, and yeah, I'd watch it. Unfortunately, we cannot watch Discovery right now in the Netherlands. There's no network that carries it, not even Paramount, which is maddening. Prodigy is really good. It's an animated series. Loved what they did with that genre. It's classic Star Trek. And then you've got Lower Decks, which a lot of people love, and I don't care that much for it. It's okay, I watch it, but everybody says, oh, it's classic Star Trek, and I'm thinking, no, it's Rick and Morty with Star Trek uniforms, and I don't really care for Rick and Morty. It's not my type of humor. It's often a bit juvenile in its humor, but maybe in other cultures, other countries, it may still feel like it's groundbreaking and it's innovating. I watch that kind of humor and I'm thinking, yeah, been there, done that. This is like 20 years ago in the Netherlands, this kind of stuff, and it gets old very, very quickly. Velma is another one of those series. It's very much like Rick and Morty, and I'm so done with that kind of humor, because it's very cynical. It's very it's always relying on shock and on, like, look at what kind of topics we dare to talk about. And I'm thinking, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna stand the test of time. Maybe Lower Decks is gonna be the most dated a couple of years from now. It's just my hunch. Perry Mason was 39 episodes per season. Yeah, crazy. Was that a talk show? The name rings a bell vaguely, but I'm not sure exactly what it was. And a lot of the sitcoms, like Friends, also were like between 25 and 30 episodes per year. They'd probably just churn out a couple of them every week. I'm glad you're having a good time with the Next Generation. Of course it is. I mean, it's fun, and at the time it was pretty groundbreaking what they did, and it's definitely, a lot of the stories are better than, for instance, the third season of the original series, which was so low budget. They had so many issues then. But No, the Next Generation really hits its stride in the fourth season for me. Just like Voyager, by the way. First few seasons of Voyager were not that good. And then there was like this turning point where you get to know, you feel like you know the crew, and the stories are getting better. There's more of a bigger story underneath all these like loose individual episodes. And the acting is good. I'm still not a fan of Neelix. Neelix for me was maybe one of the least Star Trek-like characters. They tried to use him as comic relief, but I don't think it worked. He was a bit of a, I don't know. And then there was this combination between Neelix and this lady that was also like a bit like Deanna Troi, but not as interesting. And those two were, for some reason, they paired them together for 3 seasons, and it just didn't work. It wasn't, at least it didn't work for me. I always have to stipulate. However, the Doctor in Voyager was my favorite character, maybe because I'm a bit like him. But the holographic Doctor was that was so funny. He's definitely one of you. You've got Data, Spock. There's always in every series there is a character like that. It was a little bit too cerebral and has a very underdeveloped social. How would you say that? Like they're socially a little bit awkward. But of all these different characters, definitely the Doctor, the holographic Doctor, is my favorite. I didn't like Janeway at all when I first watched Voyager. But in hindsight, I actually really like her role, and she's actually back in Star Trek Prodigy. And it made me just realize that, wow, I really actually care for that character, and I think she was a great captain. I don't know why at the time I didn't like it. It was maybe also because we were so used to a certain stereotype of male captains that were always like very decisive and heroic and smart, and not to say that Janeway is none of those things, but I think it was probably because it was more I had problems with the role than that the role as such was not right. Oh, you'll love Strange New Worlds. You could just watch it now. You don't have to wait for it because chronologically, Strange New Worlds is pre the original series. It's a prequel to Kirk. Just like Enterprise is also chronologically, but maybe with chronologically you mean like the order in which these shows were produced. But yeah, it can be a bit jarring to watch Enterprise and Strange New Worlds if you want to believe that it's all in the same universe, because of course everything looks so much better in Enterprise, and especially in Strange New Worlds. And then the cardboard sets that they did in the 60s and 70s, of course, are no match for that. Even the Next Generation looks dated. It's very much the 80s with carpet all over the Enterprise. Like, why would you put carpet on the floor of the... I mean, I like carpet. It's very warm, but it must be a pain to clean it up, especially with all those slimy aliens, materializing on the bridge from time to time. You'd have to replace the entire carpet every 3 months. And then the chairs are also so weird. Like especially in the first 3 seasons, if you look at Data, if you look at Wesley, they're not really sitting in a chair. No, they're like half lying in a chair. It's like, it's so weird. But Strange New Worlds is very much old-fashioned Star Trek, but done with today's quality. Oh, Perry Mason was a lawyer show. I've never seen it, I think. But yeah, you had a lot of those like cops shows and detective shows, and yes, they usually went on forever. Hospital shows, man. Remember ER? Perry Mason was an old court show from the 50s. Ah. I wasn't even born. Looney Tunes. I watched that every once in a while. It wasn't on TV very much. Neelix is the Jar Jar of Star Trek. That's actually, yeah, that's a good comparison. As in meant to be funny, but not really written well, and so ultimately ending up more of a nuisance. Yeah. And Neelix felt so like not a real character, and it was always a bit overacted, and he was always preparing these weird dishes, and didn't really have anything to contribute to the story. He was usually there to get into trouble. Yeah. That was one of my biggest pet peeves about Voyager. Voyager was very uneven. It got better over time, but it never reached the quality of the Next Generation. Deep Space Nine is very cool. Also has a couple of weird characters that I'm not sure I totally connect with. And it feels dated now that I watch it. I mean, it's probably, I'm still in season 4, so the best is yet to come, according to almost every fan. But the first 3, especially the first 3 seasons, there was a lot of stuff in there that felt slow and dated and cheap, very much like a sitcom almost. I thought Babylon 5 was a lot better, even though it's older than Deep Space Nine, a little bit older. But a lot of the characters on Babylon 5 feel more, I don't know, more realistic, have a bit of an edge. And Star Trek Deep Space Nine, a lot of it was a bit too, I don't know, childish maybe? The writing, I don't know, it felt like they're treating the fans as if they're not very smart or something like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm too critical. I never watched Dragon Ball. Never, ever. Have I already seen The Chosen? No time. No time. Plus, I still need to figure out how to stream it on my TV, because that I have an app that used to be called The Chosen, and now they changed the name. I don't know why. And but I haven't. It's always a pain when I have to like stream something from my phone or from my iPad to the TV. But yeah, ultimately I'll probably watch it, and then I'll say, well, why didn't I watch this 5 years ago? It's just I cannot watch everything at once, and I'm not always in the mood. It's like The Last of Us. It's very strange. I know that it's fantastic. I loved the first half of the first episode, and then I stopped watching because it's too much. It's so intense. And I think it also has to do with my fatigue lately. That Like I can even tell now that I'm still tired from yesterday, and I'm not alert. There's a bit of brain fog, and I also have that when I'm watching TV. I don't want to watch stuff that is too challenging, because it's just fatiguing, and I don't have the energy. So some of the stuff that I used to watch is temporarily on hold, and I'm watching a bit of like I just sit in front of the TV, I'm watching 1 hour, and then I was like, okay, what am I going to watch? I still need to watch 2 more episodes of The Big Bang Theory, and then it's over. Then I finally watched all the seasons, which I'm still trying to avoid because I love that series so much. I don't want it to end. Um, I was watching. What else have I been watching? Everybody was raving about the White Lotus, so I started watching the first episode of the first season. So I can see why people like it, but it was a bit crass and vulgar, and there were some scenes in there with unrequested nudity that I was like, oh, come, I don't want to watch this right now. So I stopped watching that. What else? Yeah, I'm watching quite a bit of Star Wars Rebels. That's nice. I like Star Wars Rebels. Um, some Star Trek. What did I watch any Star Trek lately? I rewatched. I did rewatch something. Well, Picard, obviously. Oh yeah, the first movie. I wanted to see if they had the improved version of the because they redid the special effects, and then I think last year a Blu-ray came out where with because the improved version of the movie was only available on DVD. I bought it years ago on DVD, but it doesn't hold up on the big screen. So apparently finally decided to do a remaster on maybe not in 4K, but definitely in HD. And so I was wondering, is that the version? I can't tell actually. It still looks pretty bad effects wise. It's a slow movie also. Robert Picardo, yeah, he's great.
I'm not sure I understand.
Why is Siri? Okay, apparently Siri thought that I was talking to it. Is this because I don't have to say Siri to my watch, right? You just have to hold it up. It did understand that I was talking about Robert Picardo. Oh well, still have to get used to this watch. Did you ever watch Stargate? Yes, I did. I watched. I still have the DVD box that someone initially borrowed me the DVD box, and I took like 5 years to watch some of the seasons, and then when I wanted to return it because I felt guilty that I kept it so long, he said no, I keep it. I don't need it anymore. So I saw maybe four seasons or something. I never finished it. It was a lot of filler. It was okay. I liked it. I liked the concept, um, but it's a bit slow and it's a bit old. I never found the courage to go back and to finish it. But they do have some good characters in there. I think you will like the video game Stellaris. Ah, yeah. I'm not sure if I have Stellaris. if I bought it, or maybe it's on Game Pass. I hesitate to check it out because it felt like too much like a strategy based game, and I'm usually, again, it's all about energy. When I play video games, it's usually at the end of the day where I'm really tired, and so games that are very challenging, very intense, tend to skip them. I go for like really relaxed games nowadays. I hope it's all temporary, because this is totally not like me. But it's right now I make choices on the basis of how much does it cost me, because I need to protect my energy for the things that really matter, like podcasting and stuff. I do wish the weather would improve. I don't know about you, but the darkness outside and the cold and the rain. There are days that that really depresses me. It kind of lowers my energy levels even more. So I can't wait for the temperatures to rise again. I want more sunshine and being able to just go for a walk without having to walk around like a wampa. Have I gotten into Full Metal Alchemist? Yeah, I watched one episode, and then I thought it was good, but I wasn't very motivated to keep watching it. It's also, again, because the Crunchyroll. I don't have Crunchyroll on the TV here downstairs, only upstairs, which is kind of my work TV. So when I go upstairs and watch something, it's because I want to study it, because I need to make a video about it. But downstairs, this TV for some reason doesn't have Crunchyroll. And I was wondering the other day, does the Apple TV does it have Crunchyroll? Because then I could connect the Apple TV to. Right now, I'm not using it. I could connect it to this TV, and then that would maybe allow me to watch a bit more of more anime. Because again, I don't like streaming it from a mobile device. Hey, Brenda. What books am I trying to finish? I'm reading a fantastic book that I have been avoiding for years because it's so big. And I thought it was more of an historical novel, so I also thought maybe it wasn't my taste. I like adventure and fantasy and stuff. But it's called Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. And I knew about the story because of a video game that is based on this novel. But the novel is 1,100 pages. I'm listening to the audiobook. It's more than 40 hours. But I'm following a Bookstadon on so you know that I love Mastodon. Since I made the switch from Twitter to Mastodon, I'm thinking this is 1,000 times, but this is my favorite social media platform right now. Because I'm following so many interesting people, and you can also follow entire servers. And I'm following I think a hashtag called Bookstadon, or maybe it's even an account. And so if you post something to @Bookstadon, it will post it to everyone who's following that particular account. And so I'm getting a lot of recommendations of people that I have never heard of, and just random people that love books. And so I saw someone who said, yeah, my son finally convinced me to start reading The Pillars of the Earth, and it's awesome. And so I was like, okay, let's go check it out. And I started listening to the first hour, and it's riveting. It's so good. I cannot stop listening. Actually, I'm sitting here now. I'm thinking, we need to wrap up. I need to go back to Pillars of the Earth. It is so good. And it's not at all the historical thing that I thought it would be. It's really personal. It's almost as if I'm watching a movie. It's so good. The writing, it's golly. It's my favorite book for how do I say that? If I look at what I've read over the past 6 months, this is my book. I haven't read anything that comes close to it. But it's long. I'm not done yet, but that's what I'm reading right now. My wife and I just finished The Big Bang Theory. Oh, you cried. I've just seen the episode with what's his name? The mother and son. Oh, jeez, I'm really tired today. Anyway, you know, the horrible mother who's always kind of talking down to her son, and then he stands up to her. I thought it was a very deep, good episode. Excellent writing. Anyway, I wish my brain would function today, but it doesn't. What?
I don't understand. I wish my brain would function today, but he does.
Okay, so I think I know what's going on. So every time I raise my hand, the Apple Watch thinks that I want to talk to it. Or Siri thinks I want to talk to it, which is not the case. And then, of course, Siri cannot make sense of a random talk. Nor can anyone else, probably. Just started watching Lockwood and Co. Never heard of that. Catholic fasting isn't hard. Just eat half a pizza for breakfast. Sounds very Catholic to me. Now I want to eat pizza. Thank you. I had pizza for breakfast, actually, this morning. God and gaming. Never heard of it. I don't watch a lot of religious stuff, to be honest. It's usually not very good quality. There are exceptions, of course, but a lot of the Christian programming is not to my taste. It's yeah. Oh, it's by Word on Fire. Yeah, it's okay. I haven't seen it, but Word on Fire usually is okay. It's informative. It's very much on the teaching side of things. It's not always, storytelling-wise, it's not always the best. I feel it's overly intellectualistic at times. And that's okay because they have an audience for that. But I'm not part of that audience. At least not, most of the time I'm not. But they put a lot of effort in what they do. It's just I feel like it's a bit too much inward-facing, like so much else that Christians are doing in the media. It's always, in a certain way, presuming that you either are already very involved in faith, or that you have a strong desire to become involved in faith. And I think there are lots and lots of, but like the majority of people in today's society won't be able to connect with that kind of programming. And so whenever I see initiatives like that, I'm thinking, yeah, that's great, but why don't we do more stuff that is accessible for people that, I don't know, just more regular people? Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I always feel that the Catholic Church and Christian churches in general tend to always go the intellectual route, which is fine for people that have studied and went to school, but there's so many other people that don't, and we don't do much to reach them. Plus, I think you always in communication have to speak to both to the mind, but also to the heart. In a non-cheesy way, preferably. Christians are not that very good at doing that. Hmm. But Michiel, do yourself a favor. Start reading Pillars of the Earth right now. Throw away everything else you're reading because it's not as good as Pillars of the Earth. You'll love it. The BBC turned Pillars of the Earth into a series. Oh, okay. I prefer just reading the book. It's good enough. There are a lot of long books that I sometimes I'm thinking, well, I'll just watch the TV show based on the book because I'm lazy. Even with Wheel of Time, I was like, okay, I like the TV show a lot better because it dispenses with all these long descriptions and it goes all over the place. And I thought the first television series was very concise, and I like that. But Pillars of the Earth is like you're watching a movie just by reading it. It's excellent. I want a hoverboard. Who doesn't? In the Anglican Church, same thing. I think it's kind of a generalized problem with Christian communication is that it always feels like it always has to be Christian, always has to be about God, always has to be. But I'm thinking, but faith is not always about God. Sure, God is everywhere, but it's also about life and about art and about emotions and about struggles, and it doesn't always have to be at the end like, but thankfully God will do so and so. It's literally, it's too cheap. It's cheapening God's presence in the world. There are ways to talk about God's beauty and the truth in a way that is not, first of all, specifically religious. And this is, I think, what a lot of Christian communication is missing. So Michiel is now reading Sharp's Triumph. Never heard of it. Well, thank you, Violet. I appreciate you subscribing. That's wonderful. Yeah, I've got an amazing community. I love the people that are able to listen to my banter for more than 10 minutes. Oh, it depends. Like today, I'm not going to make this very long, but I just feel that my battery is just completely depleted, and I should probably just go and watch Star Trek for the rest of the evening. Tomorrow is another busy day. I have to go out. We've got a board meeting, and that's fun. I love the board members, but I have to travel by train and public transport, and it will probably, so tomorrow will be like 4 hours of travel alone. And yeah, I just want to sleep. Dobry wieczór, KK. Welcome. Glad you're watching from Poland. So I'm stoked, at least, and I always try it when, even on a day where I don't feel like I'm doing much. In the past, I would beat myself up over it. It was like, come on, you didn't even record a podcast. You could have recorded the break while you went online and live, and instead you're just like blabbing about Deep Space Nine and about Neelix, of all people, of all creatures, I should say. But I've learned over time to not be too strict with myself, not to be too demanding, because I've been that all my life. And sometimes you have to just go with the flow. And there are days where I've got a ton of energy, and there are days where I don't have it, and that's not a problem. And there's always something positive at the end of the day to look back on and to be thankful for. And today for me, it's as simple as I managed to install my iPhone and to make the switch back to iOS. I managed to get this thing up and running a little bit too well. And now I have these activity rings that tell me also that I'm a slacker. Well, thank you. I was not. Well, it's today I feel I'm going to absolve myself from closing those activity rings because I only activated the thing after lunch. So it doesn't count. Whereabouts? Let's see. The Sharp series of books are fictional history written by Cornwell about a soldier in the British Army during the 19th century. It was made into a TV series with Sean Bean as Sharpie. Oh, does he die in the first episode like in everything else that he does? Dobry wieczór. Maybe you can look for something like paleo. I've done paleo in the past. Foods. Yeah, I know I've explored a lot of different things, and I actually do live a quite healthy lifestyle. I sleep well, I eat well, I run. But I'm more and more convinced that this is a remainder of the long COVID, these episodes of fatigue, and it has to do with if I try to do too much in one day and I don't spread my activities out and alternate between things that give me energy and stuff that cost me energy, then I get these sudden lapses. It's very similar to chronic fatigue syndrome. That's what it looks like right now. We've done some blood works a couple of weeks ago, and everything is fine. So I am actually physically completely healthy. So it's something in the brain probably. It's difficult to track, but the best way. I think what I'm trying out right now is to keep track of everything I do and to weigh it in terms of how intense is this, and then to course correct. And what I noticed today very clearly is like yesterday I added up everything I did yesterday, and I went 3 times over my energy budget. So it's 3 times more effort than I would normally do on a day that would be like a normal day without pressure, without stress. And so, and yesterday I was fine, but today I'm paying the price because I have energy for almost nothing. Even for streaming, I'm sitting here, but I notice that I am spending quite a bit of energy in this conversation, and it's not because of you. It's just because it's a thing that I don't have reserves for right now because I'm already in a huge deficit from the previous days. So that's going to be I think the trick for me is to find that balance so that I can just function normally. And in the past, I never had to balance things out. I was a very, very hard worker, and I would easily work 10 or 12 hours a day, and then for weeks. And after COVID, and when I started to have all these long COVID symptoms, the physical therapist told me that I probably was already doing way too much, even before I got COVID. Let alone in the recovery process. So she said it's the way you live your life, or you used to live your life, is a recipe for burnout, and so you'll have to learn how to do it differently. And so that's what I'm doing. And I have a podcast that I record every week called The Walk, where I talk about stuff like that as well. So I always try to chronicle my own journey, health-wise, faith-wise, because I figured that I'm not the only one who is trying to keep a balance in life. I learned to take it easy on myself as well. I used to feel terrible when I didn't want to accomplish a lot, but I now know that I really need those recharging days for overall happiness. That's very true. We've been often programmed in our education to be very demanding of ourselves. And it's very apparent in the way we talk to ourselves. Like, it's the should have, could have, would have kind of talking, where constantly, every moment of the day, you're like, oh, I should have done that. Oh, I'm behind on this. I must do this. And the question you have to ask yourself, and I needed external people to ask me that, is, says who? Like, but I need to do this. I need to do that. Says who? And if you try to be honest in giving an answer, then oftentimes it's says who? Says me. No one else says that. No one else requires that. Nobody will love you less for doing less. On the contrary. But that's very difficult to get rid of that internal programming. That is often an echo of people in your past that that have put pressure on you, or were very demanding or very transactional in their appreciation of you, where like, you're only a good kid if you do this and this and that. But that's one of the advantages of getting older. You start to realize those mechanisms, and you grow out of it. You start to heal from those, like, I wouldn't say wrong mechanisms, because they're just part of you, but they're not helpful anymore. They're not helpful. Anyway, hey, I'm gonna make some food, and then I'm going to watch some Star Trek. And maybe I'll even try to see if I can connect the Chosen app to my TV and check out at least the first episode. Because every time I go live, people ask me, have you watched The Chosen yet? Have you watched The Chosen yet? I'll let you know tomorrow. I'll be back in time, I think, tomorrow for a chat at 5 my time, so it's Amsterdam time, 11 Eastern time, and 8 Pacific time. So, yeah, thanks for dropping by. Carol says, I had chronic fatigue syndrome in my 30s. Wow, really? That's good that you figured out how to give yourself also recharging days. I'm still a long way from mastering that. I'm only now realizing where it comes from, the fatigue. At first I thought it was physical, but then my doctor says, it's not. Ask yourself why you are tired. And now that I'm counting the energy that I being honest about how much I work and how much I do, and that I don't give myself enough time to recharge, that has been very enlightening, and hopefully in the long term helpful as well. The Chosen is not on any of our networks here in the Netherlands. Not yet, at least. Hey, live long and prosper. Talk to you all later. May the Force be with you as well.